On the morning of June 13, 2001, 19-year-old Jason Jalkowski was called into work at Fazoli's in Omaha, Nebraska. With his car in the shop, he arranged for a coworker to pick him up at Benson High School, just 8 blocks from home. Before leaving, Jason helped his little brother bring in the trash cans. A neighbor saw him do this at around 10:45 a.m., but he never made it to the school. Between 11:15 and 11:30, his coworker called him, but Jason never showed. Security footage confirmed he never arrived at Benson High. Jason vanished without a trace. His bank account, cell phone, and ATM card haven't been used since. He was supposed to start a new job the following week, which was something he was excited about. There were no signs of trouble at home, and no reason for him to leave. Jason was shy, responsible, and close to his family. In the wake of his disappearance, his mother founded Project Jason, a nonprofit helping families of the missing. Over 2 decades later, his case remains unsolved. In 1996, 13-year-old Rachel Mellon stayed homesick from school in Bolingbrook, Illinois. That afternoon, her stepfather, Vincent Mellon, says she was napping under a blue blanket when he left to walk the family dog. He returned around 3 p.m. and Rachel was gone. Her winter clothes, shoes, and personal belongings were still in the house, even though it was 20 degrees below zero outside. The blanket she was wrapped in and 2 pillows were missing. There were no signs of forced entry. Rachel was reported missing around 5 p.m. when her mother got home. A massive search turned up nothing. Authorities say she couldn't have survived long outside in those conditions. Vincent had scratches on his body and later failed a polygraph test. He also had a history of domestic violence. Rachel had once run away briefly, but police don't believe she left on her own this time. In her diary, Rachel wrote that Vincent had touched her inappropriately. A grand jury investigation in 2000 ended with no indictments. Rachel's father, who lived in Texas, believes she was murdered. In 2006, he held a memorial service for her. Over 2 decades later, Rachel's case remains unsolved and is now being treated as a homicide. Michael Taz was last seen in West Islip, New York, on June 18, 2010. He left on a blind date with a woman he met on an internet dating site known as Match.com and never returned. His pit bull, named Romeo, disappeared with him, along with the dog's food and water bowls. A week later, authorities found Taz's black 2004 Volkswagen Jetta in Elmont, New York, with the engine still running. There was no sign of him at the scene and no indications of foul play. It's uncharacteristic of Taz to leave without warning or to be out of touch with his family, and his loved ones are afraid for his safety. Little evidence is available in his case, which still remains unsolved. In February 2002, Charles Russell and his fiancée Kathy Nelson left their Phoenix, Arizona home for what should have been a quick day trip. They were headed to Tucson to buy a motorcycle they found listed for sale, but they never came back. The couple left their dog behind and didn't pack for a long trip, clearly planning to return. But days later, their red Ford F-150 truck was found abandoned in a Tucson church parking lot. There were no signs of a struggle. The case quickly turned suspicious. Investigators believed the motorcycle ad may have been a setup to lure the couple into a robbery. For over a decade, their disappearance remained a mystery. Then in 2015, a major break occurred. A man named Brian Ferry was arrested and charged with their murders, based on forensic evidence. His first trial ended in a mistrial, but in 2018, Ferry was convicted. Just weeks later, he took his own life in his cell. To this day, Charles and Kathy's bodies have never been found. Their disappearance is now officially treated as a double homicide, and this is a tragic reminder of how a simple online ad can lead to something far more sinister. In January 2002, 12-year-old James vanished from his home in Youngstown, Ohio. He was living with 2 guardians, David Sharp and Jennifer Lynn Snyder, who had temporary custody of him. But what happened behind closed doors was far from safe. James hadn't been seen by anyone outside the home since August 2001. His guardians claimed he ran away on January 3, 2002, but they didn't report him missing until 28 days later. That delay raised red flags. It was later revealed that Sharp and Snyder were still collecting government benefits meant for James. Even more disturbing, family members had long suspected abuse. James had shown up with bruises, had his medication taken away, and reportedly hadn't been allowed to communicate with anyone for months. In 2007, the case took a dark turn. While serving prison time for another charge, Jennifer Snyder confessed. She claimed David Sharp drowned and dismembered James. His remains, she said, were thrown in dumpsters across the Youngstown area and likely ended up in a landfill. Both were arrested. Snyder pleaded guilty to child endangerment and abuse of a corpse and received 4 years in prison. Sharp later pleaded guilty to reckless homicide and was sentenced to 7.5 years. To this day, James's remains have never been found, and his case remains one of the most disturbing and heartbreaking examples of abuse and betrayal by those who were supposed to protect him. In the early hours of July 6, 2004, 5-year-old Tamra Keepness vanished from her family's home in Regina, Saskatchewan. Tamra lived with her mother, stepfather, twin sister, siblings, and occasional house guests in a household marked by tension, arguments, alcohol, and reported neglect. Between about 10:30 p.m. and early morning, adults came and went. Her mother left after an argument, as well as her stepfather. A friend stayed behind. Then there was confusion when the mother returned through a window. By morning, everyone was asleep except Tamra. Around noon, her family discovered she was gone. No forced entry and no sign of a struggle. What followed became the largest search in Regina's history. Hundreds of volunteers, police officers, even landfill and creek searches, yielding nothing. Her case resurfaced in 2022 with a Paramount Plus docuseries, bringing renewed attention to systemic issues affecting Indigenous families involving racism, neglect, and trauma. The Regina Police Cold Case Unit continues the investigation and urges anyone with information to come forward. Tamra's disappearance remains a haunting mystery. Her family, community, and investigators still believe someone knows something. And as of today, this case remains unsolved. On June 10, 2006, 4-year-old Angelica Washington vanished from her home in West Columbia, South Carolina, along with her grandmother, Portia Washington. Portia's car was also missing, and her live-in boyfriend, Kenneth Andrew Lynch, was nowhere to be found. Days later, Lynch was spotted alone, speeding through El Paso, Texas, in Portia's tan 2005 Ford Focus. Around that same time, he drained his bank account. He was eventually arrested 2 months later in Seattle, trying to flee into Canada by bus. Portia's car was found abandoned nearby, with the plates removed. Though Lynch claimed Portia gave him the car, her family said she never let him drive it. Once in custody, Lynch refused to cooperate. Then came the chilling discovery. Angelica's blood, mixed with Lynch's, was found on the carpet inside their apartment. Police declared it a crime scene. From that point on, they believed both Angelica and Portia had been murdered. Family described Portia as a kind, church-going woman who loved her granddaughter deeply. So much so, she gave up her own bed for Angelica. But behind closed doors, there were signs of abuse. Portia had once told relatives that Lynch had turned her life into a hellhole. In 2008, 2 years after their disappearance, Lynch was officially charged with 2 counts of murder. At his 2012 trial, he waived his right to a jury, and a judge found him guilty, sentencing him to life in prison. To this day, the bodies of Portia and Angelica Washington have never been found, but the evidence tells a horrifying story of control, violence, and betrayal inside what should have been a safe home.